Hi, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon to every one of you, or good evening, whatever you might be. My name is Walter Suarez. I'm the chair of the board of HL7 International. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to our annual business meeting portion. I hope you all are enjoying our first ever virtual plenary and work group meeting. And today we're going to have a series of updates and presentations regarding important announcements. First of all, I hope you enjoyed the various introductory videos that we presented, particularly the bow tie video. I think it was very clever and very good. So thank you for participating in those. And we're going to go to the next slide and talk a little bit about what we're going to do first. So if we can advance to the next slide and to the next one, please. Let's go to the next one. There we go. Thank you. So this is the agenda of our annual business meeting. We'll start with a introductory report, a chair report. I will also announce the class of 2020 HL7 fellows, and then I'll turn it to Ed Hammond, who will be announcing our Volunteers of the Year award. And then we'll turn it to Melba, who will be announcing our board election results, and then to Floyd, our board treasurer, to provide a treasurer report. And as I go into the chair's report, I wanted to start by mentioning that earlier this morning, you all received a membership announcement, introducing you to the re-envisioning HL7 strategy initiative that the board has been working on. So my chair report will focus on that, introduce you to that, give you some sense of the work that has been done, and give you some next steps. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so here we are, 2020, and it has been really the year when everything changed. I don't think any of us alive today probably experienced the 1918 pandemic that the world suffered, and when many things also change. But we are here, we are experiencing something that we had never experienced before, and it has been very challenging. And many things that have happened, I expect, will continue to happen in this new normal. And here's a few examples of the things that we expect to see happening. Among them, certainly, changes in the daily life, in how we interact with each other, how we work, how much travel we do, how many meetings we go into via traveling. I think we are going to see and continue to see significant changes, and we're going to have to be adapting. And that is a key message here today. If we go to the next slide, I think the environment, the business environment, and the basically social environment, and all our entire environment is changing. In the business side, you can see how things are changing to be more dynamic, more complex, more uncertain. Much more far-reaching impact. Things are relative, and truly a dynamic organization needs to be fast and reactive and flexible and adaptive, and be adoptive of changes and other things, and be innovative. And that's sort of the stage under which we, the board of directors of HL7 International, started to look at this. And so let's go to the next slide and talk a little bit about this re-envisioning strategy. We really started talking about this have been talking for a while, maybe a year or more, maybe a couple of years, some of the things we've been talking about for several years. But what happened this year, of course, was the pandemic, which helped us really in some ways push this forward even in a more concerted way. Clearly, we see now that global interoperability is no longer desirable, but it's going to be essential to do business. We need to become a more dynamic organization and be ahead of the changing environment. And if anything, the pandemic has done is reinforce and truly accelerated this need to re-envision what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. So let's go to the next slide and look at some of the outcomes we expect to achieve through this re-envisioning. Number one, we expect to come out of this process as a re-envisioned organization that is more focused, more agile, more globally relevant. It's more community-oriented and certainly more sustainable. We also expect to come out through this process to be a re-envisioned organization that is more approachable from the outside, simpler, and easier to navigate and to understand from the inside and to participate from the inside, more efficient in its processes, more effective in the delivery of its products and services, and that ultimately truly provides value and enhanced value to all its stakeholders. So those are sort of our two expected outcomes of this process. The board earlier this year appointed a re-envisioning HL7 task force, which was comprised by several current and former members of HL7 that had truly deep insight and internal understanding of HL7, as well as a very good, keen strategic vision. And you can see the members listed here. I want to acknowledge them personally because I think the work that has been done through this task force has been really instrumental and foundational to the re-envisioning process. So thank you to Chuck Jaffe, Russ Leftwish, Stan Huff, Viet Gudin, Janet Marshy-Broda, Diego Cummingher, Ed Hammond, Andy Truscott, and Karen Van Henterich for their participation and engagement. The charge to this task force, as you can see, was to develop a strategy that will be presented to the board, setting the stage for really what would be a larger conversation with HL7 membership and all its groups, including HL7 Advisory Board, the TSC, the International Council, co-chairs, and others. Let's go to the next slide. I think I wanted to introduce you primarily to the 5 bold principles that the task force came up with in developing this strategy. And these are focus, global relevance, agility, sustainability, and community. And so as we look at these 5 bold principles, they're going to serve us as anchors for this entire re-envisioning strategy and its recommendations and action plan. And these 5 bold principles were endorsed by HL7, by the HL7 board during its retreat in July. Let's go to the next slide and we'll talk very quickly about each of the 5 bold principles. The first one is focus. And in here, what we, I think, emphasized was the reality that the future of HL7 is going to be greatly dependent upon the development and adoption of HL7 Fire. Therefore, we will need to focus a lot of our attention on its enhancement, advancement, and adoption and use across the world in a way that meets the industry needs. And so we expect that HL7 V2, CDA, and V3 standards, which are mature, widely implemented, and form the basis in many healthcare systems across the US mostly. We will see that they are going to require perhaps only minor maintenance to address things like errors or updates and changes in regulatory policy. But we need to begin to focus around or increase our focus around HL7 fire. Global relevance is another core principle of this. 2020 again has demonstrated the criticality of global health data interoperability, and HL7 fire adoption is going to be very important in helping us achieve this goal. We are going to develop a series and have been working on a series of recommendations to help HL7 become much more globally relevant. And during this further adoption of HL7 fire, we will require that we embrace our global community and move beyond our traditional stakeholders and approaches. So those are critical elements of this global relevance focus. The next slide will briefly highlight the remaining three principles. Agility, we, as any organization that is going through transitions and through this global transition that we're going through, we need to become more agile and be able to move faster, quickly and decisively. And that is one of the key components of what we see a re-envisioned HL7. We must keep pace with the need of this rapidly evolving industry, and we need to focus more on outcomes rather than on the process itself. With respect to sustainability, we know that our current funding is not sufficient to help us address the needs, both current and future needs of the organization and of the stakeholders that form our organization. And so we're also developing a series of recommendations that will strengthen our financial position and secure our sustainability into the future. And then lastly, community. We must inspire our membership and expand truly the reach that we achieve and that we want to achieve, and engage a broader community that goes beyond our more traditional communities and participants, and that help us support the development and implementation of the HL7 standard. So let's go to the next slide and literally look at what's next. So over the next 6 months, the board will be finalizing the re-envisioning HL7 strategy, engaging members and deploying a structure that will help us oversee the development of this and the implementation of this re-envisioning process. And this will include executing a communication plan that will keep all our members informed at all times about development, both internally as well as a communication plan that will reach external audiences. As the board continues to refine and finalize this recommendation and action plan, we will periodically communicate the progress and provide specific opportunities to members to participate. We're going to be, and we've started to already, engage different participants, different groups, different committees inside HL7. And we're going to be expanding that engagement to many other participants. We are thinking about hosting things like listening sessions to help the membership understand and to help us receive input from membership about this process. So please join us in re-envisioning HL7. And with for any questions that you might have regarding this initiative, please contact Karen. So I think let's go to the next slide. Yeah, I do want to acknowledge not just this through this exercise of re-envisioning, but truly this entire year so far. I want to acknowledge the incredible work that many people inside HL7 have done and are doing. Starting with the HL7 Board of Directors and Executive Committee, we have been meeting sometimes even more frequently than monthly to achieve and to maintain the progress that HL7 is doing. Members of the TSC, members and co-chairs of the different work groups, different committees, our international council, I want to express our appreciation for their engagement and their ongoing participation in these challenging times. And our entire membership at large. I know these are very challenging and difficult times, and so we truly appreciate your ongoing support. It's been a very, very difficult period, transitioning many things, having to cancel a number of things, transitioning others into this virtual mode, and preparing the organization for what it will come next year after we come out of the most acute phases of this pandemic. And very important, very special recognition to all our HL7 staff. Without them, we wouldn't be here, and their work has been incredibly strong and very, very high quality during this very challenging time. So thank you, all of you, for your engagement and participation. And I think I'm going to transition now to announce the class of 2020 HL7 International Fellows. So let's go to the next slide and just very briefly highlight, and let's go to the next one, highlight what it means to be an HL7 Fellow and how, what is the purpose of the program. So the purpose of the fellowship program that we have is to recognize outstanding commitments and sustained contributions to HL7 International. And many, many individuals have truly contributed and committed to HL7. We, through the HL7 Fellows Program, we recognize a number of them. Contributions to HL7 may be reflected through activities like serving as a work group or committee chair or co-chair, serving the board, perhaps receiving the Ed Hammond Volunteer of the Year Award, serving as an ambassador, or serving in any of these activities or roles. And at a minimum, a fellow will have to have been an HL7 member for at least 15 years. And you can see more information, you can access more information about our fellowship program on that website. So let's now announce officially the members of our 2020 class of HL7 Fellows. So congratulations to each and every one of you. First of all, Rita Altamore from the Washington State Department of Health, and I will ask if you can activate your video, and if you want to say a word about what it means to receive this fellowship and what HL7 means to you, we'll appreciate your comments. So Rita Altamore, congratulations, and the mic is open if you would like to say anything.
I think that Rita's on vacation. I don't believe she's online.
Okay, so all right, well, we'll certainly save her fellowship award here, and we'll deliver it to her. Thank you. So let's go to the next one. And again, congratulations to Mike Davis. Mike from the, it says here at FDA. So Mike, if you are with us, if you want to say a word or two about HL7, your HL7 participation. Mike? I'm not sure if he's on, but okay. Well, let's move to our next fellow, William Goosen. Congratulations to you also. And William, if you want to say a word, the mic is open for you too.
Thank you, Walter. Well, this is really a surprise, and I'm really honored with this fellowship. I think I started being active in HL7 in 2005 when it was in the Netherlands, in Noordwijkerhout. And when I put in some work we have been doing in the perinatology, I was immediately bombarded to be a co-chair of the patient care work group, and I've been active since then. in the last years, I'm moving more in implementing HL7 Fire here back home. And we see now a large implementation of V3 and of Fire. So I'm really happy that this organization is evolving and is still supporting the implementation of interoperability. So thank you all. Thanks HL7 Netherlands. Thanks HL7 Germany for part of the support. And of course, the international community.
Great, thank you, and congratulations to you, William, again.
Thank you.
Let's go to our next awardee is Susan Matney. So Susan, you're okay, great. We can see you, and the mic is open for you too.
Well, thank you everybody for selecting me as a fellow. First, I want to thank my mentor, Stan Huff, for letting me come to HL7 for the last 18 years. The first time I came was in Salt Lake in 1997 or 98. And anyway, for all of those that have supported me and taught me and helped me, and for my nursing peeps, you all know who you are, and I appreciate you a lot. And I'm planning to continue the mission and vision of making interoperability happen. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Susan, and congratulations to you as well. Okay, then let's go to our next recipient, and that is Rob Snellick. Rob, congratulations to you as well. And I don't know, are you on? I think you are. So if you want to say a few words, the mic is open for you too. You might want to unmute yourself as well, because it looks like.
Okay,
all right.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you very well. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Yes,
I'm not on video though. Well, yeah. Well, thank you very much. This is certainly an honor. And so my contributions have been in conformance, and I'm at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and we do a lot of conformance testing, a lot of with meaningful use, and just trying to make the standards better through conformance. And I would like to just say that HL7 has created a great community. I have a lot of friends and a lot of colleagues that you know, we certainly, you know, I certainly miss them not being in person, and so I think that's one of the most important things. And I'd also like to just say thanks to the HL7 staff. They have really created a great environment for people to do work and to network and to just you know, have fun in what we're doing. So this is a great honor, and I really appreciate it. So I thank you all.
Okay, thank you so much, Rob, and again, congratulations to you as well. Our next fellow is Sylvia Thun. So Sylvia, congratulations to you as well. She's joining us from Germany, probably one of, with William, our two farthest virtual participants here. So congratulations again to you, Sylvia. And if you want to say a couple of words, the mic is open for you as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, HL7 International. And I hope you can see me right now.
We can.
Yes, thank you. And good evening. And I'm with HL7 since I think more than 15 years. And I especially like to thank Kai Heidmann and Professor Dudek, my mentors, for paving the way for me, and I'm very, very proud to be a part of this international family. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia, again, and congratulations to you. And thank you for joining us from Germany. It's great to see you. And our last fellow is, if we go to our next slide, is Grant Wood. So Grant, congratulations to you as well, and the mic is open for you.
Thank you, Walter. You know, I got involved in HL7 back in 2005 because Amnon Chabot, I met him and he told me about HL7 and working with the HL7 Clinical Genomics Work Group. And it's been fantastic ever since then. My mentors are also start with Stan Huff, but also people like Ed and Chuck and the HL7 staff, and so many others who have carried me along these 15 years. But I do want to, do a shout out to the smartest people at HL7, and that is the folks at the Clinical Genomics Work Group. It's been fantastic working with them, and participating with HL7 really has changed my life. So thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Grant, and congratulations to you again. And here's our last slide. Congratulations to all our class of 2020 HL7 fellows. So a round of virtual applause to all of you from all of us here. Okay, I think we're going to move to our next section here. I'm going to turn things over to Ed Hammond, who does not need an introduction, but just want to say he is our chair emeritus of the board of directors of HL7. And it is a great honor for me to transition things to Ed. So Ed, go ahead, please. I don't think we are hearing you, Ed. Are we hearing Ed or?
I don't see him online right now.
Actually,
I'm sorry.
Walter, he was on earlier and he must have somehow got kicked off.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Oh, here he is. Good.
Oh,
Okay.
Yes, here we are. Thank you. Okay.
I didn't have the controls. Okay, so first of all, thank you very much. That was a nice introduction, Walter. I must show you, if you can give me, can you turn my video on? Because I don't see any controls.
Ed, Lynn will advance the slides for you.
Now I can see them. Okay, wonderful. I just want to show you what the Volunteer of the Year award looks like. It's absolutely beautiful. It's very heavy, and it's Duke blue. We looked up the exact standard for the color of blue, and Mark McDougall was nice enough to make the award in that way. One year we didn't give it as Duke blue, and it gave it as clear, and all of those people complained, and we had to go back and reproduce those again. But this is what you are going to receive. But it's a great pleasure for me. I must confess that I think the nicest things that I have is have an award named after me, and every year I get to give this award to some people that have done an outstanding job in HL7. So in a sense, it's an honor that repeats itself, and I'm very appreciative of that. Our first awardee is Michael Brody, and you're seeing his picture there too. But approximately 3 years ago, Michael Brody, who is one of the AHR work group co-chairs, initiated a podiatry functional profile of the EHR system functional model. And then Michael Brody encouraged a number of key stakeholders to participate and provide input, including the American Podiatric Medical Association, the American College of Foot and Ankle Medicine, ICF Software, and TrackNet Software. These are two of the largest niche EHR systems servicing the podiatry community. Between the two software vendors, this represents half of the practice in podiatrists in the US. And then PICA, which is the largest medical malpractice carrier in podiatry. PICA ensures approximately half of the practice in podiatrists in the US. And several vendors that sell technology products to the podiatry community are looking to integrate their products with HL7, with EHR products, and then practicing podiatrists to provide their insight on what they're needed in technology to provide better care to patients. I think it's amazing because this particular activity is touching almost all of the podiatrists in the US. Many of the stakeholders that Dr. Brody engaged with previously were unfamiliar with the positive impact that HL7 standards have on the health care ecosystem, yet now are successfully engaged in the development and implementation of standards that empower health information interoperability. Wound Expert, the largest EHR for the wound care community, has engaged in the project and is in the process of implementing the FHIR IG, enabling communication between EHR systems and medical devices that measure wounds. Tissue Analytics is also in the process of implementing the FHIR IG, and when completed, Tissue Analytics and Wound Expert will be exchanging wound data via a FHIR interface as specified in this not yet validated implementation guide. Registry Clearinghouse, a CMS-approved clinical data registry, has made a commitment to exchange wound data using the FHIR IG and is in the process of deploying a FHIR endpoint to allow EHR systems and device manufacturers to send and receive wound data to the registry. This will create a wound data repository with interoperability between all systems that adopt the FHIR IG. By initiating this project and by considering the clinical business needs of relevant stakeholders, Dr. Brody is spearheading a project that provides a return on investment benefiting the implementers, providers, and payers. That ROI is driving adoption of the artifacts even before they come HL7 standards. Dr. Brody is president and CEO of TLD Systems and CEO of CME Online. And I might mention that he did his undergraduate work at MIT. I think we're seeing a mixture of a technical background and a clinical background, and has done an amazing contribution to the field of podiatry. So we thank Michael for putting his best foot forward, which has earned him the W. Ed Hammond Volunteer of the Year Award. Michael?
Well, thank you, Ed, for that. Really, the credit goes to the other co-chairs of the EHR work group who have provided me an immense amount of support, and members of HL7 from the other work groups who have engaged with us, and all the people who have worked with this inside and outside HL7 to get it implemented. I'm sort of the center of the hub, but the award really belongs to everyone who's done the implementation and put this into place so that way it's actually in place and benefiting both patients, providers today. So thank you for the award. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's certainly well deserved. Our next awardee is Mike Davis. If we could get Mike, thank you. Mike is a longtime security working group chair. He has authored and sponsored the development of most of the HL7 security standards, including the HL7 Healthcare Privacy and Security Classification System, which is the basis for security labeling in HL7 V2, CDA, and FHIR, the Security and Privacy Ontology, several PASS specifications, including PASS Access Control, and he has sponsored his team's collaboration on HL7 Security and Privacy DAM, HL7 Data Segmentation for Privacy, CDA-IG, FHIR Provenance, Audit, Event, and Provenance, as well as on FHIR Consent and Contract. He's the mastermind behind the Privacy and Security Architecture Framework, which provides foundational concept models for federal trust, provenance, and audit. He's now ready to retire, and that's a bad word, Mike. But he's still deeply involved in updating the HL7 security and privacy DAM as a logical model, and I hope you will continue to stay active. You're young looking and clearly have a lot more to offer to us. Without your leadership and zeal, the quality and quantity of HL7 security, privacy, provenance, and trust-related standards would not have been possible. Mike is a security architect in the Department of Veteran Affairs. And if you just heard, he became an HL7 fellow at this meeting. So we appreciate Mike's putting our HL7 standards under secure wraps and publicly acknowledge him as the 2020 winner of the Ed Hammond Volunteer of the Year Award. Mike, congratulations. Do you want to make a statement? So I guess we aren't going to hear you because we didn't hear you before. So we'll move on to the next person. The next recipient is Lindsay Hugley. Lindsay has been heavily involved with HL7 during employment with the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and Irish Health Solution, as has brought involvement of these organizations and her colleagues in those organizations to HL7. I think it's important to recognize the fact that this is someone who really introduced a very important area, namely that of nutrition, to HL7, because I think this is an important part of many of the life expectancy, health, and all of those sorts of things. Someone remarked to me that Lindsay had put nutrition informatics on the map for dietitians and members of the American Dietetic Association. Lindsay has been a prominent contributor to the nutrition orders and assessment products, the allergy intolerance DAM, the care plan DAM, care coordination services model, the consolidated CDA-IG, the patient-centered care team DAM, and the clinicians on fire exercise at the working group meeting for the past 5 years. Lindsay has been involved in many other projects in HL7. During the past 2 years, Lindsay has served as a co-chair of CIC. She stepped up and done an absolute amazing job of reorganizing and restructuring the documentation pages and projects of CIC as a part of the uplift to Confluence, Xero, and Zoom conferencing. When that required reaching out to someone for missing information or documentation, she always does that and follows through. Lindsay has undertaken all of this with the efficiency and organization of the project management professional she is. But more than that, Lindsay never says or implies, "That's not my job." She simply gets things done. Lindsay is the very essence of what makes HL7 volunteers the remarkable community that they are. But of course, for Lindsay, this was all just a piece of cake. We are delighted to award her with the W. Ed Hammond HL7 Volunteer of the Year in 2020. Lindsay?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
For whatever reason, my video is not working, but thank you very much. This was a surprise and certainly an honor to receive this award. I have to say also that it all is deserved to many other nutritionists that kind of kept us going and worked hard through the past 10 years. I think one of the best things about HL7 is having acclimated many nutritionists to HL7 so to do the work is that regardless of what a question is asked, is that there's typically a very patient, generous, and gracious answer to it. I really have learned so much from colleagues at HL7 and am very glad that those colleagues have become friends of mine. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much too. And again, I would ask us to give applause for our 3 Volunteers of the Year award. Thank you. So next, I'd like to transition to Melva Peters. She is the secretary of the board of HL7. She is the chair of the GOC. She is a previous co-director of the International Committee, and she has a number of other jobs. She's been a very important contributor to HL7. So now she will tell us the board election results. Melva?
Thanks, Ed. Thanks very much. Hopefully you can see my video. It's nice to be here today, even if it's not in person. So I want to announce the election results. It's actually a little bit more than the board election results. So the next slide, Lynn. So these are the board election results for this year. So the incoming chair-elect is Andrew Truscott, Secretary Virginia Lorenzi, 2 directors at large, Linnell James and Janet Marchabrota, and the affiliate director is Diego Kamenker. So congratulations everyone on your election to the board of directors. The terms will start in January 2021. So next slide. We also had TSC elections held in January. We've switched all of the election cycles over to the July timeframe, so they all coincide. So TSC election results, the affiliate representative to the TSC is Christoph Gessner from Germany. From Administrative Steering Division, Ricky Merrick. Clinical Steering Division was myself. Infrastructure Steering Division, Paul Knapp was reelected, and from Organizational Support Steering Division, Virginia Lorenzi. So congratulations, everyone. Next slide. So we had co-chair elections as well. I'm not going to read through these, but I'll leave them up for just a minute or two that you can look. So there were lots of new co-chairs and returning co-chairs elected to the work group. So thanks, Lynn, or whoever is advancing the slides. And I think there's maybe one more, maybe 2 more. And is that the last one? Maybe that's the last one since we're to vocab. So again, congratulations to everyone who was elected. And the terms for all of these positions start January 2021. Next slide. So now I'm going to transition over to Floyd Eisenberg, who is the treasurer of the HL7 board, and he'll be giving you his treasurer's report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Melva. So we'll go to the next slide for the treasurer's report. Sorry, I didn't see my name spelling. So what I'll be doing is giving the highlights of the 2020 year-end financial forecast, the highlights of organizational member survey. We're looking for what organizational members were thinking of for 2021 as far as participation and renewals in HL7 and other organizations, and some insight into preliminary draft for our budget for 2021. Next slide. So just some highlights for 2020. Membership revenues, both from organizations and individual, exceeded our budgeted revenues by $93,000. So we did better than budget. If we look at distance learning, that achieved $50,000 more than our budget amount, and our webinar and virtual classrooms also are expected to generate $125,000 over budget. So we've done quite well that way. We've replaced this year our face-to-face meetings with virtual events. And while we have reduced our revenues somewhat, we've also reduced our expenses even greater. So while we've had a 19% less revenues than we budgeted, we have 22% less than we budgeted expenses with a net positive, and you'll see that on the next slide. We're forecasting overall a $10,000 net loss. We had budgeted for a $241,000 net loss. So we did better. Next slide. So here are the numbers. As you can see, expenses had a positive variance. We didn't have to spend quite as much, and we ended up actually doing much better than expected as far as our net income, our year-end reserves up 3.4%, and reserves in months of operating expenses also much better. So in spite of the challenges of the pandemic, we've actually come out okay this year. But in looking at all that, we'll look at the next slide. What we wanted to address was what are the factors to think about as we look at budget for next year. So first, will our organizational members renew their membership? Organizational members provide a good, the majority of our membership dollars. And will people be joining and also participating in our meetings if they were virtual? And will they, what do organizational members especially think about meetings and memberships moving forward into 2021? So we surveyed 408 of those members, and we had a really good response rate, around 70% overall, asking about membership renewal, virtual meetings, and in-person meetings. Data are on the next couple of slides, so if we move to the next slide. We asked, do you anticipate your organization will continue to support dues to organizations like HL7? So note the wording is not HL7 alone, but are they supporting memberships, thinking of overall organizational budgeting? 88% said they do anticipate renewing memberships in organizations such as HL7 in 2021. 10% really didn't know, and 2% anticipated they may not be renewing organizational memberships across the board. Vast majority do seem to be planning to continue memberships in organizations. So that's a positive finding. Next slide. The next question was about would your organization participate or fund attendance of your employees and members for industry meetings that are virtual in 2021. So 41% said yes, they will allow their folks to participate in virtual meetings with full funding. 40% said yes, they will allow them, but they may not have as much budget as they used to have. And 19% didn't know. But it did seem that attendance at virtual meetings is very likely in 2021 based on what we heard from the survey. Next slide. So the next was a little bit more about if you had a industry meeting that was in person, would your organization support travel and cost for attending such meetings? 21% said they anticipate that everything will be funded as virtual from their organization. 11%, like the last slide, said they would participate but reduce funding. 31% said they are not likely to participate in in-person meetings, and 37% did not know. And we're talking about all of 2021. We weren't talking about just the first 6 months or so. So attendance at in-person meetings during 2021 is uncertain at this time. So if we go to the next slide, what the Finance Committee assumed based on these findings was that they did not recommend an increase in any membership dues for 2021. Given the concerns about how the pandemic may impact membership dues in 2021, they are anticipating a budget conservatively anticipating a somewhat decline in membership and year-end dues compared to 2020. And the budget in preparation will assume that all meetings will be virtual based on a recent board decision, HL7 board. There may be exceptions to that, but they'll be considered on a case-by-case basis by the board. And I believe that's the last slide for the Treasurer's report. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Thank you very much. And I will transition now, I believe, to, is it Chuck?
We're all set. If Lynn, are you ready? We're a little early. Okay, so we had a unique experience for our plenaries this year. We had nearly 3 decades of holding plenaries in person. The intimacy of that experience really impacted the ability of some audience members to communicate with the speakers. And it was a unique step that we took when we made a revision in our plans for the plenary to be able to enable a virtual event. In order to better accommodate the international community, we divided the plenary into 2 components: an early AM meeting, which made it easier for the European, African communities to attend, and now a late afternoon meeting, which provides accessibility for the Pan Asia Pacific and Pacific Rim countries. Monday's meeting was a remarkable one. We heard not only from the US FDA, but from the World Health Organization, a remarkable presentation from our colleagues in Brazil, as well as an international perspective on the broader elements of the COVID pandemic impact on healthcare IT written large and healthcare in general. Today, we'll have an equally impressive group of speakers. I believe they'll share with you some of their unique knowledge that really transcends the communities that we serve. Certainly one of these, and our initial speaker will be Dr. Chesley Richards. Chesley has been the CDC Deputy Director for Public Health Science. For his decades of contribution to the CDC, he has overseen a broad range of epidemiologic and public health services, all focused upon improving population health. His primary focus now is to shepherd the agency-wide modernization of technology for the CDC. And so that will have a significant effect on the HL7 community and how we envision the next decade. Our next speaker is Dr. Atul Bhoot. Atul is the Zuckerberg Distinguished Professor at UC San Francisco, as well as the Director of the Baker Computational Health Sciences Institute. And he is now the Chief Data Officer for all of the integrated UC healthcare system, which is comprised of 20 health education programs, 6 medical schools, and multiple hospital systems. Finally, we'll have some insight into the front lines of the COVID pandemic. Dr. Jennifer Koh, who is for 20 years a practicing surgeon, and for the last decade and a half has been at Kaiser Permanente here in California. And she'll describe the impact of COVID on not only the patient population, but on the care providers who service them. So without further ado, I'd like to turn the podium over to Dr. Chesley Richards, who will talk about his leadership in transforming the information systems at CDC. And as always, Chesley, we welcome your thoughts and your contributions. So without further ado, Chesley.
Thank you, Dr. Jaffe. And if we could advance to the first slide, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. The mission of public health, whether it's CDC or the World Health Organization or state and local health departments, is to protect against health threats and to promote good health. Now, to do that job, we need data, and the data has to be timely, it has to be valid, and it has to be actionable. And if you noticed on the bio slide, the subtitle to my remarks is, are we just in time or 20 years too late? And I'm going to reserve my opinion on that to the end of the talk. Next slide, please. New technologies, technical tools, and approaches that allow for better, faster public health practice and expectations for public health have grown accordingly. However, the way that public health approaches data has not always kept up. Significant transformation is needed to ensure that public health can access data to help protect communities. And currently, health systems provide data to public health through a complex combination of approaches. I think too often frontline public health professionals are forced to fall back on phone calls, paper forms, and faxes. And as a result, clinicians are unduly burdened with filling out paper forms instead of delivering their needed care, or they simply do not report what is needed in public health. Although there have been pockets of innovation in electronic data exchange, public health traditionally hasn't had the resources or the will to scale new approaches broadly. Without significant transformation, public health reporting will continue to be beset by delays, incomplete information, and missed opportunities. Next slide. Now, as you can see from some of these examples on the screen, even before the COVID pandemic, it has become more and more clear that CDC and more broadly the public health community have faced growing public health threats that become more and more important in today's globally interconnected world. Next slide. And as Janet Hamilton, the executive director of the Council of State and Territorial Epidemiologists, told Congress last year, the data is moving slower than the diseases are. The investment in both national and local public health data systems and approaches has lagged well behind the investments in healthcare data. But recently, we've been working with Congress and we have been able to direct resources specifically at strengthening core capabilities around data. Our initial targets have been to improve case reporting through electronic case reporting, consolidate electronic laboratory reporting, advance the use of syndromic surveillance from emergency departments, and to create a truly digital system for vital records reporting. These are useful, and building on these efforts, we do see transformation occurring. Next slide. And the time has come to really have a paradigm shift in the way we use data and information systems to meet public health needs. Starting last year in December, Congress appropriated an initial $50 million for data modernization for CDC and public health departments. And this year, during the COVID epidemic, that has been increased by $500 million. Thanks to the funding for our data modernization and through supplemental appropriations, public health is getting resources that are truly unprecedented to address data issues and to create the kinds of data systems required to meet longstanding needs. Next slide. Our Public Health Data Modernization Initiative is an effort to unlock the full potential of data for disease detection and elimination by ensuring that public health information systems can rapidly identify emerging threats, that trusted data promotes evidence-based behaviors, interventions, and solutions to protect health, that all people have the right information at the right time to make good decisions. This transformation will not be easy or simple, but it is possible, in large part thanks to much of the work HL7 and others have done to lay a strong foundation of standards and data interoperability. Now, I think success depends on several key factors. Next slide. Much richer standardized electronic health data will soon be available nationwide to meet multiple needs. The recently finalized ONC and CMS regulations establish a set of common and consistent data expectations that certified health IT vendors are required to support, focusing initially on a common set of data elements known as the U.S. Core Data for Interoperability. Now, US CDI data elements will be available and consistently formatted to the Fire Release 4 standards, which will aid in the interoperability of that data. And ONC's regulation also mandates that large population level data in US CDI will be made available through a bulk FHIR API. These are important capabilities for public health, and public health can leverage these federally required standards and other broadly adopted capabilities. These requirements do set expectations around data liquidity and create a baseline for what data will be readily available and what functionality will be supported nationwide. Next slide. These modern technologies are available to support public health priorities from the local to the national level. Widespread adoption of FHIR-based standards will provide additional capacity to support modern computing interactions that could help bring advanced data science capabilities to public health. These capabilities may include, but are not limited to, predictive analytics, enhanced surveillance, personalized communications, bidirectional information from clinicians to health departments and back to clinicians, streamlined data sharing while preserving patient privacy, and modern cloud-based technologies that can make possible for public health to leverage and contribute to a distributed system that makes data accessible in analytics-ready environments to address multiple needs. Next slide. US CDI will expand over time and new data elements can be added based on input from the public. CDC working with academic and public health partners to identify data elements to add and identify where those variations and how those variations will support public health in approaching the same questions. And CDC is building a body of knowledge to better understand the types of information that we and local and state health departments need to be extracted from the EHR text and figure out how we can pull out unstructured data and make it usable. We also want to be able to use the regulated APIs for public health, but we need to recognize that some of the needs and challenges surrounding public health data are different than those of healthcare or payer data. And so participating in this national dialogue is essential for public health. Next slide. The 21st Century Cures Act introduces a paradigm shift wherein health information will be more readily available to support multiple needs. The goals that I think are also vital and core to much of our public health data modernization are included with the ONC's goals and priorities to provide a single on-ramp to national connectivity, to enable electronic health information to securely flow when and where it's needed, and to support nationwide scalability. Filters can be applied at multiple points in the data flow to ensure only the necessary data are shared. Confidentiality and data release are really big concerns for public health, and yet we can use the technology to help support those needs. ONC has flexibility to approve new standards on a voluntary basis without lengthy rulemaking, shortening the production cycle for public health urgencies. Next slide. Now, interestingly, as public health information systems begin to transform, the way public health approaches data needs to also evolve. And we will have to reconsider some of our fundamental operating principles in light of these transformations. What's collected and how it's collected, where it's stored and how it's structured, and how might we access it and use it using the best practices of the best technology, the best practices, and the best standards. Next slide. Health systems are becoming more well-versed in FHIR and API-based ways of exchanging data. And a coalition of the willing, both private and public sector, could help public health agencies jumpstart our approaches to interoperability. Next slide. With that in mind, we recently, building on the momentum of the data modernization initiative, CDC recently hosted a listening session in July of this year to discuss ways emerging standards, including but not limited to standardized APIs for population health data, often referred to as bulk data, could benefit public health. The goals of the meeting were to understand how recent changes in the regulatory environment may benefit public health, including but not limited to the U.S. core data elements for interoperability and best practices for accessing bulk data, to identify the technical aspects that need to be addressed to conduct real-world testing of electronic health record interoperability standards newly regulated by ONC, and to outline policy and socio-regulatory considerations pertaining to patients' privacy and accessing data from electronic health records at scale. What has become clear is that the standardization and baseline capabilities that are coming into play over the next 2 years present an opportunity for public health to access richer data to drive the decision-making and to inform the public more quickly and with greater precision. If architected appropriately, data modernization efforts supported by CDC could reuse and extend the capabilities that already exist or will soon exist. Next slide. In closing, we are engaging with many of you in advance on key issues, such as how we enhance bulk FHIR capabilities, how we develop and test use cases with implementers, how we conduct policy and legal assessments, and how we're going to promote widespread adoption. So finally, I want to go back to that sub-question I had. So are we 20 years late or just in time? I think we're a bit of both. We really needed resources to do the transformation we've been talking about, and we have them now. We needed electronic health record to penetrate the clinical sector completely, and we have that now. And we needed tech standards to evolve to be able to help us address the public health mission, and I think we have that now. Now it's time for us to get busy and transform the public health data systems. Again, I want to thank HL7 for its longstanding commitment toward public health and for its role as a partner to drive public health data transformation. Thank you.
Chesley, there are a few questions that have emerged, and there had been a exciting initiative in the past several years about directly accessing clinical data from an electronic health record to inform public health agencies. And this had been piloted, as I recall, in 6 states. It was transformative because it didn't require physicians to fill out lengthy forms or other caregivers to participate in the process without undue burden. Could you give us an update on the status of that program?
Thanks, Dr. Jaffe. That program I think that you're mentioning, I briefly said it, but I really didn't describe it, the electronic case reporting. And that has been an initiative that has come together with a broad coalition of both clinical and vendor and public health partners called the Digital Bridge Collaborative. That did start off with a few pilot states, and I have to say it started before we had the extra funding from Congress. We've seen in those pilot states or locales, New York City, Houston, and Utah, a lot of success, and we've been able to scale now even during the COVID epidemic so that we've received several 100,000 case reports using this electronic case reporting approach in hospitals and clinics across the country. So it's an exciting initiative. I think we see that and some of our other initiatives as building, helping to build a foundation that's really getting us from a paper-based reporting system to one that's more digital. But we have got to harness these emerging methods to complement what we've been doing with those kinds of initiatives.
Another question along the same lines. With what other U.S. federal agencies are you partnering in your modernization effort?
We have a very close working relationship and partnership with the ONC, both around fire and around HIEs, and also with the electronic case reporting. We've worked for obviously a long time with FDA and with NIH, and we work with CMS, but we've also broadened our partnerships or working collaborations to the VA and to DOD. We also work with state and local health departments, obviously across the country. They're our primary partners, and they in their own regions and locales work with the healthcare system and a whole range of local partners. And I think the only way for us to advance the kind of transformation that I'm talking about is really through these types of collaborations and partnerships.
There's a lot of interest, and it's certainly growing, in a virtuous learning health system. How can the CDC feed back so the clinical experiences of the CDC enhance the care of patients in a more broadly informed way?
I think this is one of our big goals, frankly, with the transformation, because I think there are, at least two very immediate things that I think can be pretty dramatically improved. One is the bidirectional flow of information with clinicians. Clinicians are required in their local jurisdictions to report a whole range of about 100 different reportable diseases, and they send that information into health departments and eventually to CDC, but often don't get any information back. With these approaches that we've been describing, the electronic case reporting and with FHIR, I believe we're going to see much better bidirectional flow of information. The clinicians send in the information on the patient. We can provide a context and information both about the population and about the guidelines and recommendations associated with the condition. And that's beginning to really become a reality in some jurisdictions. I think the other thing that is going to happen is that our ability in public health to make much more data available, both because we get it faster and we get more of it, but also because we have tools that will help us to protect the confidentiality and privacy of the individuals on whom that data is collected in ways that we haven't been able to before, which will enable us to be able to provide more data out to researchers and to the public. I think that will also be a big change, a sea change for us.
Well, thanks, Chesley. As always, it's a delight to have you participate in HL7. Thanks for all your contributions over the years. And to the CDC, we wish you the kinds of changes that you have envisioned and helped drive. So with that, our greatest thanks to you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Dr. Atul Butt, who will talk to us about his experience in enabling health system collaboration. So without further, Atul.
Excellent, great. I think you guys can hear me. If you can stop sharing your screen, I can share mine. Chuck, can you stop sharing your screen, or whoever has that?
I don't have control over it.
Okay, I'm not sharing my screen anymore. I believe that you.
Okay, that might be better. Are you still there? Hello?
Yes, yes, proceed.
Yeah, I'm no longer sharing my screen. You're welcome to share yours.
Great. Okay, great. They made me into an attendee there, so I lost you there for a second. Okay, this here. Okay, can I get confirm one of you guys can see my slides at least? Look good?
Yes. Yes.
All right, great. All right, great. Well, thanks for having me here. It's an honor to talk to this august group, HL7. I've been looking more and more into the history of HL7. I am actually shocked how the early days actually started at UCSF. So it's great to be at the University of California and at UCSF in particular. And really just going to be explaining what I've been doing for the past 5 years here, especially in data interoperability and some use cases, and especially in the time of COVID. First, I have so many conflicts of interest. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't believe another word I said over the next 20 minutes or so. All right, so just to reintroduce the University of California to you, we're enormous, 10 campuses, 3 national labs, including Lawrence Livermore, which has, I think, the fastest supercomputer in the country at least. We have 200,000 employees, that's gonna come up in a moment, and 250,000 students per year. And like everyone else, we're trying to figure out what to do with our 200,000 employees and 250,000 students. 20 health professional schools, of which 6 are medical, the rest are pharmacy, nursing, veterinary, public health schools, and all the rest. We train half the medical students and residents in California. You can see we make 13 billion a year seeing patients. 5,000 doctors get a paycheck from us, but 100,000 doctors write orders on our patients. And we're not shabby places either. We're often in the US News top 10. 5 comprehensive cancer centers, IRB Reliance, and all the rest. And what we announced 3 years ago, it's probably coming up on 4 years ago, is that the entirety of the entire University of California health system, all of these academic medical centers, are going to form aspirationally a single accountable care organization, what we call UC Health. Now, this will take us 10 years to do, and we're partnering with United Health Group to learn how to take on risk. But our aspiration is we will have a single entity that can be contracted out for healthcare, for employers and all the rest. Now, it's amazing though. The minute a bunch of academic medical centers make this decision, all of a sudden the immediate question comes up: whose type of medicine are we going to actually practice? UCLA does it one way, UCSF does it a different way. Which one is the right way to do it? So all of a sudden, then we got to figure that out, and immediately there's a desire then to make a single central data warehouse to figure out all the details of how medicine is going to be practiced, and that's exactly what happened here. So we have now a single central data warehouse in the middle, and each of the 6 campuses sends their data. Of course, they keep it themselves, and they send it to us, and this happens on a monthly basis. We were happy with monthly until COVID, so we switched to a daily basis. And I'm going to go through all the details here. The logos are at the bottom there. So UCSF and UCLA are the huge gorillas here. San Diego, Irvine, and Davis are smaller, And Riverside is tiny. They're a brand new medical school. They have some clinics, no real hospitals there yet. So Riverside has a couple thousand patients. The rest of these have millions here. All of this happens now routinely. The top level we love to start with is the 15 million patients. So the entire University of California has treated 15 million patients over the last 15 years. It's a nice round number for us because that's 5% of the entire US population that we have treated. Now, if you count from the more modern era, and I recognize the irony of putting epic and modern in the same sentence, but that is modern for us. That goes back to January of 2012 when UCLA and UCSF put in epic. Moving forward, we've just seen probably just shy of 6 million patients with modern data elements captured in structured ways. It's 250 million encounters, 100 million procedures. My favorite, nearly 600 million medication orders or prescriptions, 640 million diagnosis codes, and 2.3 billion blood tests and vital signs. Everything I like to say from Tylenol to CAR T cells. So of course we have primary care patients, but we have the sickest, most specialized cases in the world as well. We have all the text elements from pathology and radiology. We conveniently run the death index for the entire state of California, so we know every patient that dies in California, not just ours. State regulatory data, what we call OSHPOD, and claims data from self-funded plan. We'll talk about that. And all of this is reharmonized every single month. Now, before I go further showing you what we're doing with this data, I want to just point out we are absolutely enabling patients with this data. All 5 of the major health campuses now provide that data in through FHIR, and the Apple Health app. So if you go to Apple Health and you go to Health Records and you literally just type in UC, you will see all UC campuses there. So I'm incredibly proud that all of us are there. In fact, UCSD was a launch partner with Apple on the Apple Health Records, Apple Health app. So we're certainly there. We want to make sure our patients are enabled with this data. By the way, there's hardly any ecosystem of apps for patients to use this data. Yes, we can see the records now as patients. I'm foreseeing a huge ecosystem of patient-facing decision support apps to come in the future. That's another whole hour-long talk, but I think I want to make sure that we're enabling patients first. But of course, we're enabling ourselves as well. So I'm just gonna, since I don't have that much time, I'm gonna enable 5 use cases here. Saving money for a self-funded plan, integrating data around trials in cancer. Pop health is a big buzzword on health campuses now, so I'll talk about what we're doing there. Real world data is another big buzzword and what we're doing there. And I'm going to kind of close with COVID because, of course, how can you give a talk without talking about COVID? So first, our first year and a half of having this central data warehouse, we really spent it inwardly, trying to improve quality of care and try to save money. And remember how I mentioned that we have 200,000 employees. It turns out that more than 1/3 of our employees actually choose us for healthcare. So you got to realize how odd that is, right? Healthcare institutions are really the only kind of organization that can have employees actually getting care with us, right? You know, Walmart can't really do that. Well, they're going to try to do that. Amazon can't really do that. Well, they're going to try to do that. But many of our own employees can get healthcare from us, right? That is our business. And so it's about 1/3 of our employees. It's a huge number when you think about it. We have an HMO and a PPO. And one of the things we noticed was many of our employees were getting prescribed brand name metformin instead of generic metformin, okay? And you know, it's been generic metformin for decades, right? Even all the weird formulations. But guess what? We were the doctors writing the prescriptions to our own employees, right? So if you follow through all the incentive arrows there, that's equivalent to burning money on the front lawn of the hospital, right? There's no reason we should be writing our own prescriptions for brand name for our own employees. That's coming off of our bottom line. So boom, we look at that and immediately it starts to get solved. And long story short, we can save, it's still continuing more than $1 million a year just on the one prescription for brand name metformin to generic. That by itself pays for so much else of everything I'm going to show you here. So once you get the operational stuff really figured out, it's amazing how all the research stuff gets paid for almost for free because you can save the money and document it this way. All right, so that's one use case. We're doing a lot more of these nasal corticosteroids, hypertension drugs, a lot of these that we're trying to fix here. Another thing we've done is really taken on cancer in a big way. So I mentioned we have 5 comprehensive cancer centers. All 5 got together in 2017 to announce that we were going to start to act as one giant entity, especially for trials. And here you can see the 5 cancer center directors with our outgoing president, Jenna Napolitano. And why this is because we think now to get the latest drugs to our patients, we need to get better organized to have those trials, because that's where all the life-saving miraculous drugs are how they're going to reach our patients. And so we started to do that now. And so here you can see a geocoding, and you can see the numbers of the 161,000 cancer patients we saw in 2019. Our best guess is this is probably triple to quadruple MD Anderson, which is legitimately #1 in the country. So we know now we are stronger when we act together as 5 academic medical centers here. You can see gender breakdown, race, ethnicity, of course. We got smoking status. We parse that out of text fields and all the rest here. And you can see they're not just in California. So we have patients all over Hawaii. You can see Las Vegas with a big yellow blob there. But we know we're stronger together when we can put our patients together for trials. By the way, we've also parsed all Foundation Medicine cancer genomics reports. UC San Diego's a little bit behind, so they're off of this one. And we can literally search by genes. We're doing all of this in a data model called OMOP, which is complementary, I'm going to argue, to FIRE, but we can go into arguments over drinks someday over that. And you can see P53 is the #1 gene mutated across all UC cancers. And again, you got smoking status, age, race, ethnicity here. Not every patient gets sequenced in University of California, but we have the sequence now in a central data warehouse with, of course, the rest of the medical record for the ones that do get sequenced. Why that's interesting is, for example, there are drugs coming out that target these specific genes. This is called precision medicine. One is looking at, there's one particular drug that's looking at ALK mutations, ALK. And literally now on the dashboard, I can click on ALK, and I can see, yes, indeed, lung adenocarcinoma is the #1 gene, disease, cancer that has an ALK mutation. That's good because that's where these drugs are targeting. But wow, look at all these other cancers that also have an ALK mutation. I wonder if this brand new drug could also be used in those cancers. We can solve these kinds of questions now from a central data warehouse because all the patient data is in one place this way. So that's what we're doing for cancer and clinical trials. Population health management is another huge area on health campuses now. And so we're tackling type 2 diabetes first. And this is literally the screenshot. I made this yesterday. What primary care docs and our specialists see every month. We have one dashboard that covers all 44,000 patients across the entire University of California with type 2 diabetes. Now, we have many more than that, but these are ones that are attributable to us, either as specialists or primary care. And so the way to read this is you can see the numbers, nearly 44,000 patients. This data is updated monthly. You can see we track whether they're seen by a primary care doctor or the endocrinologist, mostly treated by primary care. We got the hemoglobin A1Cs in the middle there, and we can see who's getting worse and better. Obviously, with COVID, fewer people going out, fewer people exercising. So we can track every single one of these patients here. And at the bottom, you can see all sorts of different measures. I had to cut it off there. Eye health, kidney health, and then we can map all of those to the IHA national benchmarks. So we can literally see the entire, all 5 academic medical centers working together on a single dashboard. Now, to be fair, not a single one of our campuses had this themselves. We got one for all of them now. Again, off the same data model. Let me just keep reiterating that. The same database is used for operations, pop health, and for research, okay? So the minute it's paid for, the work is already done for all of them, right? It's incredible value to try to scale that way. So we don't have to have separate databases for operations folks, quality folks, and research. It's the same database, and it's all in OMOP for us here. Now to go further here, for type 2 diabetes, we know it's more than just the drugs and exercise. There's a lot of what we call social determinants of health. And we started to tackle social determinants in a lot more detail here. And one way we're doing that is to geocode all of our patients into a zip +9, a 9-digit zip code. And then from there, calculate what's called the area deprivation index. So this is an index that actually tells home ownership, unemployment rates, access to groceries, all of that. And then it's scaled within your state. So you can see the California map here. Of course, the Bay Area, the LA areas are blue. Those are the wealthier neighborhoods. The reds are the worst neighborhoods, let's say the harder, more challenging neighborhoods. So now we've geocoded all of our UC-wide primary care population. If you have a PO box and things like that, then we can't map you. But here, of those 40,000 diabetics, here's 33,000 of them. You can see we do treat more of the wealthier ones, area deprivation 1, 2, 3s, and 4s, but we do take care of the ones at the 8s, 9s, and 10s as well. Now with that, we can start to map to outcomes. And indeed, now we can look at every single one of these patients and start to create and predict what a patient should have or how we should be targeting them to get better. In our patient population, we know patients in a worse area deprivation can have a higher, they do have a higher A1C, hemoglobin A1C, independent of age, sex, race, and ethnicity, right? There's more to it than just being a particular race or ethnicity. It's even worse for you if you're in a worse neighborhood as well. And so now we can start to target what is the 5-mile square block that we should go after? What exactly should we be deploying there? Are they missing appointments? Can they not get access to transportation to get to our appointments? And really precision public health the heck out of this here, right? All of this comes out of OMOP, right? Because we have a central data warehouse, identifiable data, we can geomap them this way. To go through the rest here, real world data, I could spend a day talking to you about our success with real world data. But the long story short here is that pharmaceutical companies and biotechs are incredibly interested in real world data because, as you can see shaded in the background, the FDA has put out incredible guidance on real world evidence. There now have been drugs that have been approved for specific indications solely based on electronic health record data, okay? It's gonna be hard to believe, but it is now possible to get a drug approved solely from EHR data with no clinical trials. Now, I'll show you that we've written a paper about this. I'll show you the link in a moment here, but this just gives you an example why it's so potent, right? Pick any drug like Humira, right? All of our campuses use Humira like crazy. It's a good anti-TNF alpha drug. And you can see the original trials from AbbVie. You can look at the pivotal studies. They had 500 treated in the first study, 619, 299, 854, right? So that, you know, when a drug company gets these drugs approved, they're treating a couple thousand patients. And now that it's approved, in the University of California, we've treated more than 18,000 patients with this drug. At a certain point, we legitimately walk into the pharmaceutical and biotech companies and we say, we probably know more about this drug than you do. And at a certain point, we're probably right about it because we just keep using these drugs. And now we're starting to do the comparative effectiveness studies because it's in our interest to know the answers for all these. And you can see the others here too. We wrote a paper on this on real world data. I'm not going to spend more time talking about it. It came out of JCI in February. Vivek is an incredible fellow, now assistant professor. We found 21 uses for real world data. And it goes way beyond what the FDA says. I think we got a lot of biosimilar development, comparative effectiveness studies, patient selection for informing future trials, and all the rest. There's a link there at the bottom if you're curious about the paper. I think it's open access, but you can get further details there. And then in the last few minutes, I got to talk about COVID, right? So we've been integrating COVID data now since the early in the pandemic, right? California and San Francisco was really early in the challenge here. This is literally today's dashboard. So every night from midnight to 6 a.m., we harmonize all COVID data. It gets shipped to us centrally from 6 to 8 in the morning. We do the harmonization to make sure we're understanding all the results. And then we push this out to 500 teams across the country, including CDC, the White House Operations Center, the FDA, many state regulatory bodies as well. On the right here, you see we have 45 ways to order a COVID test in the University of California. Several have been ordered tens of thousands of times. We harmonize this every single morning. You can see on the left there, how many of our own patients have been tested every single day. It ranges between 2,000 to 3,000. Of course, we test less on weekends because we're just seeing fewer patients. These are actually the patients. So those were the tests. Here are the patients. And here you can see that we've tested 263,000 patients. Again, this is all as of last night, okay? We got this as of midnight last night. Our rolling positivity rate now is 1.92. So all of a sudden, New York is willing to see Californians again because our statewide rate has gone down. If you haven't read about that, we can so you can see where we were in July and where we are now. We geocode the last 7 days of positive cases so you can see where they are around the state. And you can see the age breakdown and sex there and the location counts are running. So our doubling rate is in the months again. And then these are the inpatients. Of course, not every patient gets admitted, but we are now down to 110 inpatients as of midnight last night. So we can show you the ICU counts, which is pretty low. You can see the kind of blue and the red. The red are the ICU ones with COVID. Ventilators, of course, any of you who play with EHR data know we have 300 lines of code to figure out if a patient's on a ventilator. And sadly, it's a different 300 lines of code on one of the other campuses. And yes, we all use Epic, but different instances. ECMO is another beast to try to figure out if a patient's on ECMO. And we've discharged 1,630 patients, and 209 have passed away on our watch. And so you can see about running case positivity rate, about 25% of our positives get admitted, 8% of them pass away, 2.17% of our positive cases have passed away so far. But we can go more creatively. This is not one that we send out, but this is my favorite. We call it a bubble plot. This is literally every single admission of every single patient in the University of California. Now, it goes from left to right. It's from February to September. So you got time on the x-axis, and the age of the patient is on the y-axis. So newborns all the way to 90. We trim it at 90 because of HIPAA. And each dot there is an admission. The longer the admission, the bigger the dot. If the dot is red, that means an ICU was part of that admission. And if there is a dark black circle around the dot, that means the patient passed away. So on one graphic, you can see older people are passing away. Those people that are passing away are dying with an ICU stay, except for the ones at the very top. And my guess is it's because of advanced directives. Because when you're at that age and you know you're sick, that you might not want to be intubated, so they're passing away on the general wards, not the ICU. All on one graphic, you can see our entire problem with the pandemic in the University of California. Now we can actually track every single drug, and we call these calendar plots on the left. This is just showing remdesivir. Of course, we were part of the trial, but after approval, you can see literally in the middle of the beginning of July, our use of remdesivir skyrocketed until August, and it's actually plummeted. We just don't have that many sicker patients with the remdesivir. And on average, we're opting for the 5-day course instead of the 10-day course. We give these dashboards to the FDA every single week because they just want to see what's happening with real-world data after they do a EUA here. And we tweet all of this stuff out every single day between 9 and 11 in the morning. And you can see at the top there, 1.8 million people have seen our tweets since we started doing this in April. The public absolutely wants to see this data. And we don't care who else is sharing their data. We are going to share this data every single working day here. Now we've opened all this up for research and all the rest here, but I'm just going to stop by really saying that we really want to enable UC researchers to go beyond. We want to have them help them develop a machine learning and AI in a safe, respectful, regulated, fair, equitable way. Why I love being in the University of California is because the world's populations live in California and are treated by the University of California. We treat the richest and poorest zip codes in California. And that's what we're going to need to train AI machine learning to avoid biases and all that. But we're really shooting towards what we've been calling a deep learning healthcare system. We all know what a learning healthcare system is. I think we need to remove the experts now. I want to get to a health system that learns by itself what needs to be improved and changes and makes those suggestions solely from data. So I'm going to end, and maybe we have time for some questions with the team that makes this happen across the entire University of California. Incredible experts that make all this data flow and really surface it up every single morning to all the decision makers who need it. So thank you very much.
Atul, that was incredible. We have time for one question. We'd like to invite you back to talk about the real challenges of mining real-world data, because I think that's going to be the future for not only healthcare delivery and approval of products, but also for population health. So the one question is, has the impact of this made changes to your system that are being influencers around the United States and around the globe? Because you've certainly been leading the information fight. So where else have you had impact?
Yeah, so I can't really say that. I can tell you where we're sending it. I can't always tell you what they're doing with it, but I can clearly see the impact at the FDA. So what's happening now is I think a lot of drugs, devices, tests are being approved but not with a lot of data, as we know, as is appropriate in an emergency. So we've seen the FDA reach out constantly, every couple of days, looking for us to help to show them what the real world results are for those things that they have just approved. So for example, we can run comparative effectiveness studies of a lot of drugs on COVID now, right, that have been approved. Things like that we can do. We can look at performance on serology, the next big thing, right? We have more than 10,000 patients already tested on serology. I don't mean the PCR, I mean the actual antibodies. And so we're looking at all sorts of performance characteristics there. So these are things where, remember, if we don't share this data with the FDA, they never get it. And you know what? They're never going to get this data from claims data, right? Or Sentinel or any of those kinds of things. They don't otherwise have access to real world EHR data. And I think, of all the organizations that receive this data, I can clearly see the FDA is benefiting the most from it.
Well, Atul, as always, what a pleasure to have you. Thanks for taking all the time out to participate in this. We look forward to seeing you again soon, and best wishes for successful leadership in this field.
Thanks for having me again. Thanks.
Take care then. Our last speaker is going to be Jennifer Koh. Dr. Koh has been a surgeon for 20 years. She's been at Kaiser for the last 15 of them. Jennifer kindly acquiesced to talking to us about her experiences on the front lines and how the impact of the COVID epidemic has impacted not only her care, but the outcomes for her patients. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Jennifer. Are you there, Jennifer?
Yes, I am.
Oh, terrific. So in addition, I have to embarrass Jennifer for a little bit. So in addition to being a surgeon dedicated to this process for 2 decades, Jennifer is also an accomplished violinist, leading not only at the La Jolla Symphony, but also the World Physician Symphony that performed in Europe last year. So congratulations on that. Now we'll, if you're not too embarrassed, we'll segue to talking about the impact that COVID has had on your care for patients. Certainly, you've seen a host of dramatic events that have changed the way you care for patients, but nothing has been as temporal and sudden as the impact of COVID. Could you just share for us how this pandemic has not only changed your practice, but the way you care for patients?
Sure. So as a surgeon, the first big impactful thing was that most elective surgeries were canceled. In fact, all elective surgeries were canceled. So we were only doing emergent and non-emergent and urgent operations, such as cancer operations. So suddenly I had nothing to do. I mean, as a surgeon, not having operations to do, we were thinking of that we would be redeployed to the ICUs or to the ERs in case that there was a surge. So immediately there was a change in what my duties were going to be. Part of while we were working out which patients needed the care, we also had to prioritize patients, and that would depend on their health needs as well as their own comfort levels too. We also had to close a lot of our clinics and to decrease the capacity of our clinics because we had to clean the rooms in a special way between patients. So our patients were given more access to virtual care, which was a huge shift. as far as other aspects of my life with COVID in the hospitals, it's just the fear that I felt that I would either bring it home to my family. I was changing my clothes in the garage before I would come home, and showering before I would even interact with my family. And then I was trying to minimize contact with people in the hospitals as much as possible. This is all in the early stages when we weren't exactly sure what PPE we should be using. So it certainly had a huge impact on not just everyone, but the healthcare setting, yes, certainly.
I realize that the technology only had a small part in the changes that you've seen, but for many of us, it's made a major impact in the way care is delivered. What technologies have really emerged for you during the pandemic?
Right, so I embraced virtual care, which I never really thought I would as a surgeon, because as a surgeon, I really value seeing a patient, laying my hands on the patient and doing the physical exam. And initially, we had done telephone visits maybe a few times, and most of Kaiser Permanente's virtual care had been started in the primary care setting. But with the pandemic, even as a surgeon, we weren't able to see patients in the clinic. And so we had to pivot to talking to patients over the phone and even doing video visits with them, which was completely new to me. So I was able to see my list of 40 or 50 patients who were waiting for surgeries, and I was able to contact each of them by phone to evaluate what their symptoms were, how comfortable they felt about being operated on during a pandemic. And then I had to prioritize them that way. And that helped in figuring out who needed the operations right now, who wanted to wait for a few months. So I was actually forced to adopt virtual care and other modalities that I kind of was able to ignore before.
One of the impacts that the COVID had was more than just on the practice of medicine for you and for many people. Do you want to share a little bit about your personal experience with the disease?
Sure. I actually tested positive myself at the end of March. I was having some cold symptoms, and at that point, the recommendation became that if you were a healthcare provider that with any symptoms, they wanted you to get tested. So I created a virtual care encounter with my primary physician, and by phone, I was sent to the drive-through COVID testing. I got my results over the telephone that they were positive, and so I also had follow-up visits by phone from my physicians to check in on me. I basically had to take 2 weeks off of work just so that I wouldn't be a danger to others. And interestingly, I was taking 24-hour shifts at this time at one of our hospitals. And we all, the 8 of us who would take 24-hour shifts as the general surgeon on call, would have to share this little call room with a bed and a desk and a computer. And none of my colleagues wanted me to share that room with them. So I took an additional week off where I did virtual care from home, where I did telephone visits all day. And that's really when I learned how to do the video visits, is when I was forced to work from home and I had to figure it out. Because until then, I had never done a video visit before. And I'll have to say my patients, many of them had never had that kind of interaction either. And I got a lot of positive feedback from that. I mean, I had to walk them through how to log in, how to initiate the video encounter. And they were very surprised and very satisfied.
I realize that there are some tools that have emerged during the pandemic that are going to change healthcare forever as we've known it. Do you think these changes will impact you in the near future and for a long time in your healthcare delivery experience?
Right. I think that the pandemic really showed us that there was a need and a desire for this, where before the pandemic, I kind of honestly was not that interested. But now that I've experienced it as a patient and as a practitioner, it's fantastic. I had patients who would drive an hour each way just to come and see me in the office because they wanted me to take care of them. And now I can call those patients, or I can have a video visit with them. I can't do surgery on them just yet, but maybe that's coming in the future. But it's been really, I think that these changes will last even past the pandemic, certainly.
So I can imagine how reluctant you were as a person who is so hands-on with patients, but you began your career 2 decades ago in a paper world where health information was recorded and shared on paper, and now we have a ubiquitous electronic medical record. But there are a lot of things that really change quite slowly. How can the EMR be enhanced to make you more effective in caring for your patients?
My biggest wish would be that if a patient came to me from another hospital or another insurance, that I would be able to have access to their records. Currently, it's quite a clunky way that we have to get those records. So if a patient has been in another hospital, even if it was just in the ER for one afternoon, I get this stack of papers in a little folder, and that has all their vital signs and labs. And even though that other hospital had electronic health record, I'm having to get the information on paper and look through the pieces of paper and copy down the labs and copy down the reports of the x-ray. I'm having to look at their CT scan on a DVD disc. So I'm having to find a computer that will open the DVD. It's just a very frustrating experience every time. Wouldn't it be nice if I could have access to all of the electronic record that had just been inputted in the computer at the other institution? Why am I having to manually input it into our health record? So that is an area of definite improvement I can see and hope for.
Are there any elements of the record that go beyond laboratory or patient care data that are critical for your evaluation?
Occasionally, it's important for me to see a previous operative note from a surgeon. Just recently, I had a situation where I saw a patient in the emergency room for an emergent abdominal problem, and the patient wasn't able to explain to me what prior operations they had. Fortunately, they had been a Kaiser patient since the 90s. And so I could actually see the operative report from 1998. And I could read the exact operative report as if it had happened just days ago. And it just really enhanced my ability to care for that patient because I knew exactly what I needed to expect in the operating room. So things like that where, gosh, it was 20 years ago, that operation, and yet I still had access to that information. It was right there.
The virtual care paradigm is going to be with us for a long time. I suspect that you'll be a more effective clinician when these tools mature. What capabilities, besides seeing outside medical records, would you like to have at your disposal?
Sure. So one thing that I can think of is in the operating room. Sometimes when I'm operating in the middle of the night, I'm the only surgeon, and it would be nice to have another set of eyes, quite frankly. Maybe be able to have a colleague look and see the operative field that I'm operating on and just agree that this is what I'm seeing. Do you agree that this is what it looks like? Because a lot of times the anatomy can be obscured from scar tissue. So maybe some sort of virtual reality or imaging modality that I could interact with another surgeon at the time of the operation. Or another example I would say would be when I do minimally invasive surgery, I've gotten to where I can operate by myself with one technician helping me doing these colon operations. The reason I can do that is because I have a special feature of my anatomy is that my wrist is extremely thin. And so I found that I can make a tiny incision and I can stick my entire hand in the abdomen and use my hand to retract and then have my other hand with a laparoscopic instrument. So I only need one other person to drive the camera. Well, sometimes that other person is a technician who may not have driven the camera before. Wouldn't it be wonderful if I could have a colleague at another hospital drive the camera from another hospital and be able to see what I'm doing and help me, but not have to be physically there? That's one dream I would have, because I would love to have an expert camera driver on every one of my cases.
One of the capabilities that you describe is a virtual assistant. That is another human being at the other end of the laparoscope to confirm or assist you in your surgical approach. But what other capabilities around clinical decision support would you like to see enabled in a surgical environment?
Yeah, so a lot of times I have to look things up because things, for example, for cancer treatment, I take care of a lot of breast cancer patients, and I feel that the treatments are constantly evolving, such that I'm doing different things today that I would have even just a couple of years ago. And because the recommendations and the guidelines are changing so quickly, I feel sometimes that it's hard for an individual person to keep up. So that would be one area that I think I would really could use the help is some sort of guidelines for cancer treatments and follow-up. Another area would be helping us deal with incidental findings on radiology exams, because I'm in a unique situation where I practice both at Kaiser Permanente and an outside hospital. And if one of our Kaiser Permanente members has a imaging study at this other hospital and the radiologist dictates some incidental finding that requires follow-up in a year, that needs to manually get transferred into the Kaiser electronic health record by me or by someone else, or it may be lost forever. And I just think that that is a kind of a dangerous situation where it requires a human person to catch that and to manually put it in. And if the medical record could help us catch things like that, where we don't have to be the ones to make sure that we've caught all the incidental findings, that would be very helpful.
As you know, HL7 and CDS hooks have enabled a lot of clinical decision support, and the future is promising for how that's going to change delivery of care. But as a clinician, you don't need to know the underlying technology. You just need to see the end results. What capabilities do you think are important that are incorporated into the future of tools like CDS hooks?
I think being able to customize the level of alerts, or maybe select which features that you want to turn on and turn off. I think that having automatic updates of information is fantastic, because I feel that if I'm the one having to look up and research things, I may miss something. Basically, anything that will help me not miss something is really important, because I'm human. All of us are human and can maybe miss something or forget something. And I think it'd be very helpful if the health record helped us not to miss those.
Very humble of you, Jennifer. We'll ultimately develop some tools to help us better face the challenge of the COVID pandemic, not only this year, but in the next year and perhaps beyond. But there will be other challenges and other pandemics and other healthcare crises. What capabilities would you imagine you'd want to have when the next crisis emerges?
I think having all the data accessible, right now it seems like the data is kind of piecemeal and none of the systems are talking to each other. And if there was one central area where all the data could be, like the cloud or something like that, where it's readily accessible by all the institutions or by all the states or even all the different countries that could be involved in a future pandemic or situation, that we'd all be in a better place. I know there's a tricky balance between information and privacy, but as a physician, the more data I have, the better I can take care of a patient. And so if I flip that around and think that if I'm a patient, I would want my physicians to have as much about me as possible so that they can help me.
One of the challenges that we all have with ubiquitous paper and the advent of concerns, increasing concerns over privacy in this interconnected world, we're always on the prowl for better solutions to bring you the kind of information you need, whether it's cloud-based records or the kind of push capabilities that FHIR offers. If you had to give some advice to the developer of the HL7 standards, as we move forward to make a better technology, what advice would you give?
It would be helpful if physicians only had to learn one system in order to access the information. Currently at my 2 different hospitals, I had to learn 2 completely different EHR systems, which and then I have to remember what to do in each system. And then I would just dream of a situation where no matter where the patient is from, no matter what country they're from, if I'm having to take care of that patient, that I can have the information that I need when I need it, and it would be right there. I'm not sure how to implement that, but that would be my dream. Where
It's been absolutely terrific, Jennifer. Thank you for your willingness to participate and sharing some really personal experiences with the HL7 community. Over the coming years, we hope that HL7 will contribute to addressing your challenges and make it a better and safer place for our patients. So with that, let me turn the program over to Wayne Kubik, who's going to explain the next steps. So Wayne, can you take it from there, please?
Okay.
Mark, do you have some
I think Mark was supposed to go first.
Yeah, if I may just take 1 minute to share a couple of announcements. Lynn, please advance. As is always the case, HL7 is so dependent on our dedicated volunteers. So I would like to once again recognize and thank all of our mentors, facilitators, TSC members, and most of all the co-chairs who are truly the backbone of the organization. Also have a couple slides to recognize some of our longstanding members. We now have, let's see, we've got 11 members who have been members for over 25 years. And we certainly appreciate their commitment and support of HL7 this long. And then we now have 3 members who have been members for 30 years, Gary, Ed, and Clem. Kudos to them, a sincere thanks. And we also now have 8 affiliates who have been members or HL7 affiliates for 20 years. Kudos and congratulations to all of them. And then just another housekeeping announcement. If any of the co-chairs on the call wish to cancel or change the times for our meeting, Please make sure you alert Mary Ann so she can update the agendas accordingly. And should you have any questions or problems, on the next slide, there's a couple ways to seek help, either through RUVA or through an email. And now I'm happy to turn it over to Wayne. For those who are new to HL7, he's not only our CTO, he is our resident mixologist. Wayne, all yours.
Well, thank you, Mark, and hi, everyone. I guess CTO also stands for Chief Thirst Officer. This will be the first time we've done this event at a working group meeting because we didn't need to previously. We met in person. We did a dry run first experience at Dev Days back in June. And we over-engineered the planning and sent out far too much information. But in the end, everyone just showed up and had a really good time and just hung around and drank. And so this time, in typical HL7 fashion, we sent out far too little information, far too late, and we're going to wing it this time. But we do have 4 pubs lined up for you today. And the idea is to go visit each of them. Each of them for a 45-minute period will have within a 45-minute, we'll have some sort of event. So the first one will be a wine sig focusing on 3 or 4 different wine regions in Europe. We'll be going through tasting demos of a few representative wines over there, including Italy, Switzerland, France, maybe Germany, not sure, but that'll be the first one. The second one will be our own Dave Shaver, who traditionally has our Tuesday night meetings. He'll be leading a beer tasting from his home in Colorado. Our third one will be the Whiskey Sig, which is a stalwart for all our working group meetings. We have Mario and Richard from Aegis leading that particular one, and we'll finish up with a mixology on fire session. For the mixology session, we'll do 3 whiskey-based cocktails from Matt Ron, Rob McClure, and myself. And that one may go on a while. We tend to, that'll be the last one. We really have a last call at 6 a.m. so we can begin sessions in the morning, but hopefully not all of us will last that long. Last time, I think they actually came pretty close to that. In terms of some basic advice, you can find information on what's going to be shown and what's going to be tasted by going to the Confluence link that's showing at the bottom of this. I think it's posted somewhere in Zulip and in Huva as well, but you can also just find it in Confluence by searching for WGM Virtual Pub Crawl. And you should, we'll be using Zoom only. We won't be using Huva for the actual sessions, just to keep it simple. So control it like any other Zoom meeting. If when there's a demo going on, you might want to go into speaker view so you can see what people are doing, and gallery view just to chat with people. If you're not talking, please go on mute again, because there could be a lot of people at each of these sessions. We know there's a birds of a feather session and other working group meetings, so we don't expect everyone to be there all the time. But if you're not talking, mute, and keep your video on so people get a look at what you're at you, since that's what we do at a real meeting. Mingle, between the pubs. The idea is to go from one to the other, but you can hang around one longer if you want. And when you're mingling, you can use Zoom chat or you can unmute and just talk as you would normally. We'll see how all that works. It's kind of like self-managed to see working within the Zoom environment with lots and lots of people, but it worked okay last time. So we'll figure that stuff out. Bartenders really may not be in their sessions once there's over. They might be going to others. For example, I've set up myself up to go to all of these, and I plan to be moving from one to the next, and I'll be participating in the first one, the last one, with some of my shared drinks to be shared. And don't record anything in Zoom. We don't want to embarrass people for posterity, or if you do, be careful with what you do with it. Drink sort of responsibly, but the idea is let's just go around, make off we're all in the same room. It'll be a Zoom room, but we can pretend, and let's have a good time. So we'll be starting the pubs officially in about 6 minutes, maybe a little longer before we actually get going. We all need a little bit of break after this long session, but I hope I see a lot of you there. Come join us, get your drinks ready. Maybe get some snacks, get a glass of water as well. And I have a bottle of ibuprofen handy, which might be as we go later into the night. See you all soon. That's all for today. And see you back in Europe for the wine tasting. Bye-bye.
Wayne, I just want to thank everyone at the HL7 headquarters who participated in an absolutely magnificent program. Thank you for the last several days. And as we move forward, thanks to all of the HL7 members and participants in this work group meeting, and we look forward to you in the days to come. So,
and thanks, Chuck. And don't leave yet. I forgot. I just noticed Prasant Sri is on the call. He's actually from Interfaceware, and they've joined us as the sponsor for this event as well, helping us keeping things going. So, Prasant, if you want to say a few words, now's a great time.
Thank you so much, Wayne, and thank you to the entire HL7 family. Interfaceware is proud to be the gold sponsor for this, and also the pub crawl sponsor for this year. For those of you who don't know about Interfaceware, just quickly, we've been an integration company that's been around for over 2 decades with a history of excellence, serving over 800 clients. For those who may be more familiar, we developed the Iguana middleware integration engine. So we work with healthcare providers and software vendors providing more rapid, reliable, and scalable interoperability solutions, moving data from point A to point B. I know we're all here just to have a lot of fun this evening, so I just want to keep it short. And on behalf of Interfaceware, we're very appreciative. And to also keep the spirit fun and festive, we are doing an Amazon gift card giveaway. It takes 10 seconds just to sign up on this landing page. You'll be subscribed to our blog if you're interested. And there you'll get some great information about HL7 and anything about health interoperability. So in the chat, I'm just going to drop just our landing page where you could sign up. And you do have a high percentage of winning this Amazon gift card, something fun that we just wanted to give away. But on behalf of the entire Interfaceware team, it's always an honor to be part of HL7, and we look forward to working with you guys in the coming years. So thank you.
Thank you all. See you soon. Bye-bye.